I plunged the letter opener into Richard's throat before he could even choke out my name. Not Poppy, not anymore. It was his own voice that gurgled up the blood, his polished Wall Street hands that clutched at the desk, but my rage burned through every vein. And as his eyes widened in that final, betrayed flicker, I realized the real horror. I'd become the monster everyone always said I was, just to make them pay. The boardroom reeked of stale coffee and desperation when it all started unraveling 3 years ago in the glass tower that Daddy built from nothing in the heart of Chicago's Loop. I was 25, fresh out of Northwestern with an MBA that felt like a noose around my neck, interning at Harlan Enterprises under Richard Harlan, Daddy's right-hand man, the silver-tongued shark who'd clawed his way from some Jersey trailer park to corner office. Everyone called him Uncle Rick, like he was family, but blood doesn't lie, and neither did the ledgers I'd been crunching late into those fluorescent nights. "Poppy, kiddo," he'd say, clapping a hand on my shoulder that lingered just a beat too long, his cologne sharp as a fresh betrayal. "You're Harlan stock, tough as nails, pretty as sin. Don't let the numbers bully you." I'd smile, because that's what good girls do in rooms full of men who measure success in stock ticks and silenced rivals. But the numbers weren't lying. Harlan Enterprises was bleeding, offshore accounts siphoning funds like a slow poison, shell companies popping up faster than roaches in a tenement. And the trail? It led straight to me. Or so the falsified report said. Daddy, Edward Harlan, the man who'd built this empire on steel mills and real estate flips back when the Rust Belt was still breathing, sat at the head of that mahogany table, his face a mask of liver-spotted regret. My stepmom, Vanessa, perched beside him like a vulture in Louboutins, her Botox smile twitching as the forensic accountant droned on. Embezzlement in the low 7 figures. Signatures match. Transfers from your login, Miss Harlan. I laughed, sharp, ugly, the kind that echoes in empty churches. That's bullshit and you all know it. Heads turned, whispers rippling like wind through the skyscrapers outside. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her manicured nails drumming the table. Language, Poppy. This isn't some sorority kegger. Daddy just stared at his folded hands, the gold signet ring glinting like a guilty verdict. Richard? He leaned back, arms crossed, that paternal smirk saying he'd already won. The betrayal hit like a freight train from the old South Side yards. Richard had been forging my digital trail for months, using my credentials during those mentorship sessions where he'd pour me scotch and spin tales of corporate conquests.
Why?
Because Daddy was grooming me to take over, not him. The golden child, the only blood Harlan left after Mom's overdose when I was 12. Richard, the outsider who'd married into power through Vanessa, Daddy's second wife, the trophy who whispered poisons in his ear, saw me as the roadblock to his throne. By dawn, I was in cuffs, the paparazzi flashbulbs popping like gunfire outside the precinct. Heiress to Harlan Empire and embezzlement scandal, screamed the trib Vanessa orchestrated the leak, I later learned, her publicist on speed dial, framing it as troubled youth gone astray. Daddy?
Silent as a grave.
He visited me once in Cook County Jail. Through the plexiglass, his voice a rasp. This is bigger than us, Pop. The board needs stability. Richard's got the connections. Stability. As if ruining your daughter for a quarterly report was the American dream. Prison was a concrete womb, 9 months of it before the plea deal, 5 years at Logan Correctional, reduced for cooperation. But cooperation meant swallowing the lie, signing away my shares in a haze of sodium lights and regret. Aunt Lila, Mom's wild card sister, the black sheep who'd fled to the California coast after the funeral, drove through the night when they released me on parole. Your father's a coward, and that which he married is poison, she'd spat, tires humming on I-80. Come west, kid. Rewrite it all. I didn't go.
Not yet.
Chicago's hooks were in deep. The Windy City's grudge matches don't end with bars. I crashed in a walk-up in Wicker Park, waitressing at a dive bar called the Rusty Nail, slinging IPAs to hipsters who romanticized my fall. You're that Harlan girl, right? The one who... I'd cut them off with a glare, the kind that says touch me and lose fingers. Nights I'd scroll Richard's LinkedIn, Promoted to CEO, Harlan Enterprises booming under his visionary leadership. Vanessa's Instagram? Gala photos, her arm looped through Daddy's, captions like family first, always blessed. The secret festered like an untreated wound. I'd found the flash drive in Richard's desk that last day. Emails, wire transfers, proof he'd been skimming for years to fund Vanessa's coke habit and his mistresses. But when the feds came, it was my name on the docs. I'd taken the fall for their sins, a sacrificial lamb in pinstripes. And the worst? Daddy knew. A post-it on the drive. For Edward, clean this up, or we all sink. He'd buried it to save the empire, selling me out for stock prices. It was Aunt Lila who dragged me to the coast eventually, 6 months into parole, when the bar fight landed me back in lockup for aggravated. Her beat-up Subaru idled outside, engine rumbling like Judgment Day. Get in, Poppy. Or rot here. Vanessa's scream echoed in my head from the trial. Get her out of this family. She's toxic. And Daddy's silence sealed it. I climbed in, the door slamming like a guillotine. California was fog and reinvention, big Sir Cliffs dropping into the Pacific like forgotten dreams. Lila ran a crystal shop in Carmel by the Sea, tarot readings and sage bundles for tourists chasing enlightenment. The universe doesn't forget debts, she'd say, shuffling cards under strings of fairy lights. I crashed on her couch, dyed my hair black, got a job at a tattoo parlor in Monterey. Ink and needles, marking skin like I'd mark my revenge.
But the swap?
That came on a night when the moon hung low and bloated over the ocean, waves crashing like accusations. Lila's friend, some ex-hippie physicist named Doc Harlan, no relation, thank God, had a side hustle. Experimental neurotech, black market brain scans for the Silicon Valley elite dodging therapy. Soul transference, he called it, half-joking, wiring volunteers into a contraption that looked like a dentist's chair-fucked MRI machine. Maps neural patterns, imprints them. Wild shit, but consensual. I'd laughed it off until the night Richard showed up. He tracked me, easy in the digital age, a PI sniffing parole records. Family reconciliation. He bullshitted over Lila's chamomile tea, Vanessa beaming via Zoom from their Lakeshore Drive penthouse. We miss you. Pop Daddy's had a heart scare. Needs his girl. Lies. All of it. I saw the hunger in his eyes, the empire expanding. My silence the only loose end. That night, after they left, rage boiled over. I broke into Doc's garage lab, strapped into the machine, fed it Richard's photo and voice clips from old voicemails. Make me him, I whispered, hitting enter. Science or sorcery, I didn't care. Just payback. Waking up was disorientation in a suit. His suit, Brooks Brothers crisp, in a hotel room overlooking the bay. My hands, his hands, trembled as I touched my face. Salt and pepper stubble. Crow's feet from years of squinting at balance sheets. Mirror confirmed it. Richard Harlan stared back, eyes widening in my skull. The swap was partial, unstable, neural echo, Doc later explained, a glitchy haunting. I could puppet his body from afar, whisper suggestions into his subconscious, steer his decisions like a ghost in the machine. But up close? Full possession, his mind a passenger screaming in the back seat. First move, called Daddy. His voice cracked on the line. Rick? Where are you? And I savored it, dropping the bomb. It's Poppy. And I'm coming home to collect.
Click.
Chaos erupted. Stock dipped 5% on the rumor mill. Vanessa's text blowing up. What the fuck is this? I flew commercial, his Amex Black card, first class to O'Hare. Landed in a downpour that matched my mood. Back in the tower, the board meeting was a powder keg. I, Richard, strode in, tie loose, barking orders like thunder. Cut the bullshit. We're auditing the old accounts. Starting with the Cayman transfers. Gasps rippled. Vanessa's face drained of color behind her Zoom square from some Hampton spa. Daddy, frail in his wheelchair now, wheeled closer, eyes searching mine for the daughter he discarded.
Rick.
What is this? Truth serum, Edward, I said, voice gravelly with his timbre, but laced with my venom. Poppy didn't steal a dime. You did, or let me, to keep the peace. The room exploded. Lawyers scrambling, shares tanking live on CNBC. I leaked the flash drive docs to Reuters mid-meeting. Anonymous drop from a burner. Harlan empire built on lies. CEO confesses cover-up. Richard's mind thrashed inside, fragments of his real thoughts bleeding through. You're insane, girl. They'll lock you up again. But I clamped down, forcing his hand to sign the confession. Controversy? It was a goddamn inferno. Pundits on Fox called it corporate seppuku. MSNBC spun it as feminist reckoning. Protests outside the tower, justice for Poppy trending, blue-collar types from the old mills waving signs. Harlan blood on Harlan hands. Vanessa went nuclear, filing for divorce on Daddy, claiming abuse from the imposter husband. Her skeletons tumbled out, coke busts, affair tapes with the CFO. I made sure of that, puppeteering Richard to accidentally forward the files to her lawyer. But revenge is a bitch with teeth. Daddy confronted me in the penthouse, rain lashing the floor-to-ceiling windows like God's own tears. Poppy? Is that really you in there? His hand on my, Richard's, arm trembled, frail as autumn leaves. I wanted to hug him, scream, shatter the illusion. Instead, I shoved him back, hard enough to topple the wheelchair. You stayed silent, Dad. When she screamed for me to go. This is your rewrite. He wheezed, clutching his chest, ambulance, sirens wailing blocks away. Heart attack number 2. The papers ate it up. CEO assaults founder. Empire in freefall. Aunt Lila called from the coast, voice sharp as sea glass. You're playing with fire, kid. Come back before it consumes you. But the hook was set. I pushed harder. Gutted Richard's inner circle, firing loyalists who'd laughed at my trial, promoting the underdogs who'd sent me fan mail from the slammer. Controversial calls, divesting from fossil fuels overnight, tanking profits but earning yes-G brownie points, whistleblowing on competitors' bribes, inviting SEC hounds to the party. Richard's mind fractured under the assault, hallucinations bleeding into bored calls, him muttering Poppy's ghost on hot mics. The climax brewed in a forgotten Harlan warehouse on the south side, rusted beams groaning under pigeon shit and memories. I'd lured Vanessa there. Text from Richard's phone. Meet me. End this. She arrived in a chauffeured Escalade, stilettos clicking like countdowns, fur coat dripping rain. You pathetic fraud, she hissed. Glock 19 steady in her grip, stolen from Daddy's safe, I knew. Poppy's rotting in hell for what she deserves. I stepped from shadows, Richard's frame filling the door, voice a low rumble. Wrong again, Van. She's right here. Her eyes bulged, trigger finger whitening. But I lunged, his athletic build from weekend golf, my desperate fury, resting the gun, barrel cold against my temple for a heartbeat. You framed me for your highs, your holes. Daddy took the fall to protect you both. Lies? Half-truths? The drive had her signatures too, blurred but damning. She laughed, manic, as sirens wailed distant. Copside tipped anonymously. Protect? He chose me over that junkie spawn the day they met. You're just the cleanup crew. The shot rang out, not hers, mine. The gun bucked in my hand, bullet grazing her shoulder, spinning her into crates. No kill shot. Controversy needed survivors to spin tales. She crumpled, wailing, as blue lights flooded the yard. Twist hit like vertigo. As the swap flickered, neural fatigue, Doc warned, Richard's memories flooded in, unfiltered. The drive? Not his plant. Daddy's doing. Edward Harlan, cornered by debts from Mom's medical bills, the overdose a cover for suicide after endless chemo. He'd skimmed first, then pinned it on Richard to test loyalty. Richard covered. For love? No, for the merger that made him untouchable. And me? The fall guy to bury it all, because family closes ranks. Vanessa knew, screamed for my exile to seal the pact. But the real reversal, Richard had tried to confess, anonymously tipping the feds, with my name scrubbed. Daddy intercepted, twisted it back on me. I staggered from the warehouse, rain washing blood not mine, Richard's body rebelling, seizure incoming. the echo breaking. Paramedics swarmed Vanessa. I slipped the perimeter, hailing a cab to O'Hare. Back to Cali, or oblivion. Daddy flatlined en route to Northwestern Memorial, official cause, stress-induced. Empire? Auctioned off, pieces to vultures. Ending?
You tell me.
I woke in my own skin 3 days later. Doc's machine smoking in the garage. Lila's tarot spread foretelling the wheel turns. Richard? Catatonic in a psych ward, mumbling my name. Justice? Or just another Harlan lie? Me the villain who toppled the house for ghosts. Debated over beers in some Wicker Park dive.
Me?
I'm rewriting still. Ink on skin. Waves at my feet. Silent no more. The flight back to Monterey was a blur of recycled air and regret. Richard's cologne clinging to my clothes like a curse. Poppy Harlan, or whatever fractured version remained, stared out the window at the Rockies clawing the sky, wondering if altitude could scrub the sin from my soul. The headlines chased me on my phone. Harlan CEO in shooting scandal. Wife claims impersonation. Vanessa's shoulder wound? Superficial, but her lawyers were spinning gold. Domestic abuse? Mental break. Calls for Richard's involuntary commit.
Good.
Let them carve him up in court. I'd planted enough digital breadcrumbs, his browser history laced with my parole searches, voicemails edited to sound like confessions, to keep the wolves circling. Lila met me at the curb, her Prius humming like a judgmental auntie. You look like hell warmed over, kid. No hug, just a thermos of her detox tea, kava, and valerian. Bitter as truth. We drove Pacific Coast Highway in silence, cliffs plunging to foam-white breakers, the radio droning NPR on corporate meltdowns. Harlan Enterprises Files, Chapter 11, Legacy in Tatters. I snorted, sipping the sludge. Legacy was always tatters. Just needed a match. Her bungalow smelled of patchouli and pending lectures, crystals winking from every shelf like accusatory eyes. Doc was there, pacing the kitchen in Birkenstocks, his lab coat rumpled. The transference, it wasn't clean. Echoes linger. You feel him. I did. Phantom itches where his gout flared. Echoes of Scotch burn in my throat. Fix it, I growled, slamming the thermos down. He shrugged, wiring me to a jury-rigged helmet that hummed like angry bees. Can't erase. But I can dampen. For a price. Price turned out to be confession, my story, his notes for some underground journal on consciousness hacks. I spilled it all. The warehouse shot, Daddy's hidden ledgers from Mom's era, how Richard's loyalty masked his own embezzlement side hustle to fund a loved child in Milwaukee. Doc's eyes lit like a kid at Christmas. This could rewrite neuroscience. Or get us both renditioned.
Zap.
Pain lanced my skull, Richard's whispers fading to static. Freedom? Or just a longer leash? Weeks blurred into routine, tattoo gun buzzing under my fingers at ink and iron, sketching vengeful sirens on bikers' biceps, Lila's readings drawing yuppies seeking closure. But closure's a myth, peddled by therapists in $1,000 suits. Nightmares came instead, Daddy's wheeze in the penthouse, Vanessa's Glock kissing my temple, Richard's eyes in the boardroom mirror pleading stop, it's not too late. I'd wake sweating, Pacific fog muffling my screams, wondering if the swap had leaked something worse, his darkness into me, or mine into the ether. Controversy followed like exhaust fumes. Subpoenas ping my burner, Illinois AG probing corporate fraud ring, Feds sniffing Doc's tech for identity tampering. A podcaster from Chicago, some true crime bro named Jax, reached out via Lila's shop line. Heard whispers through the ghost in Harlan's machine. Spill for the mic. I met him in a dive off Cannery Row, clam chowders, where the air hummed heavy with fry oil and forgotten dreams. Over IPAs, I teased the edges. Family's just a board game. Someone always flips the table. He ate it up, episode dropping a week later. The Harlan haunting, body snatcher, or boardroom banshee? Downloads spiked, Poppy Revenge memes flooding TikTok, me as a vengeful ghost emoji, overlaid on Richard's mugshot. It pulled the threads loose. Old mill workers unionizing for back pay from Harlan cuts, Vanessa's Hampton set ghosting her at galas, Whispers of daddies will contest. Me disinherited, but Richard's confession clawing back shares. Power shifted, tectonic, and I rode the quake. But the real tension coiled in the gut punch calls from Chicago PD. Detective Ruiz, voice like smoked gravel. Miss Harlan? We got a witness placing Richard at the warehouse. Care to explain the accent slip? I'd hung up, heart hammering, but they kept coming, tail lights in my rear view on Highway 1, unmarked Crown Vics blending with tourist rentals. Paranoia? Or payback? Richard's fragmented mind, if any lingered, could have whispered coordinates in his sleep talk to nurses. Aunt Lila saw it first, over breakfast burritos, one fog-shrouded morn. The cards say inversion, Poppy. What you sow's sprouting thorns. Her Celtic cross, tower reversed, devil upright, upheaval, chains unbroken. Go back. Face it or it'll drag you. I laughed it off, but the decision gnawed like bad ink. Controversial? Hell yes, flying into the lion's den, pariah in my hometown, to testify or torch the rest. But revenge isn't a sprint. It's a marathon of moral quicksand. O'Hare welcomed me with sleet and suspicion, cabbie-eyeing my fake ID like it owed him money. The rusty nail hadn't changed, neon buzz, jukebox crooning Springsteen anthems to ghosts. My old boss, Mick, poured a Jameson neat. Poppy Harlan. Heard you possessed the devil himself. Word traveled in dives. I nursed the drink, scanning shadows for feds, when Jax the podcaster slid onto the stool beside. Knew you'd bite. Ride? His Prius cut through slushy streets to a safe house in Pilsen, graffiti murals of Aztec warriors watching over us like ironic guardians. There, over takeout tamales, I unloaded the unvarnished. The swap's mechanics, Daddy's original skim to pay Mom's ghost, cancer, not OD, Richard's lie to protect the brand, Vanessa's role as the honey trap who'd seduced the truth from Richard then flipped it. Jax recorded it raw, no edits, his eyes gleaming with that American hunger for the ugly real. This drops, it's Pulitzer bait.
But you?
Target practice. Sleep evaded in the cot, city hum vibrating through thin walls. Dreams twisted, me as Richard, signing Daddy's death warrant, Vanessa's bullet finding its mark, my blood mixing with rain. Dawn brought Ruiz at the door, badge flashing. Voluntary chat, Miss Harlan. Or we cuff you for the flight manifest.
Voluntary my ass.
Interrogation room smelled of despair and donuts, two-way mirror mocking my reflection, hollow cheeks, eyes like spent cartridges. Body swap? Come on, Poppy. That's sci-fi, not statute. Ruiz leaned in, coffee breath rank. We got psych evals on Harlan, delusional break. Your name on loop. And ballistics? Gunpowder residue on his hands matches yours from parole prints. I met his gaze, steady as Lake Michigan chop. He deserved it. They all did. Slip, truth serum and exhaustion. He pounced. Accomplice? Or the shooter? Hours blurred, Miranda rights echoing, until Lila's lawyer, pro bono firebrand from the ACLU, barged in, habeas corpus, waving like a white flag. Bail hearing was a circus. Paparazzi scrum outside the courthouse, protesters chanting "Free Poppy" versus suits yelling "Lock her up." Judge, a grizzled ex-prosecutor with a South Side drawl, set it at $500K, Lila wiring from Crystal Sales. Outside, Jax waited, Mike thrust forward. One question, was it worth it? I paused, sleep melting on my lashes. Ask Daddy's ghost. Back in the safe house, the pod dropped, 3 million listens in hours, clips going viral on X. Harlan heiress confesses possession plot. Stock in Harlan remnants cratered. Vanessa countersued for defamation, her shoulder scar a badge in depots. But the twist uncoiled slow. Ruiz's partner, off record over prison chow, slipped me a file. Richard's pre-swap emails to Daddy. Protect the girl. She's the future. Betrayal inverted. He'd framed himself to shield me from Vanessa's deeper dig, her ties to a cartel washing money through the books. Daddy chose silence to protect the empire, not her.
Me?
Collateral in the crossfire. Tension peaked at the family vault. Rose Hill Cemetery, under leaden skies. Daddy's plot fresh dug, marble headstone etched, beloved founder. I stood there, wind whipping my coat, Vanessa's PI tailing from a hearse length. Endgame, I muttered, scattering Mom's locket, clasp broken, holding a lock of my baby hair. Sirens wailed. Backup? Or burial march? As feds swarmed, cuffing the tail, I realized rewrite wasn't destruction. It was reclamation. Reclamation started with a plea bargain. Testify against Vanessa's cartel connects. Walk on the shooting as duress delusion. Feds love a flipper. I was their golden ticket to indictments, stacking like Chicago bricks. Courtroom in the Dirksen building was a pressure cooker, air thick with whispers. Vanessa in the dock radiating Botox-fueled defiance, her lawyer, a Fox News regular, pounding the podium lawn witch hunt. Me on the stand, oath heavy as manacles, spilling the swap's guts minus Doc's tech, framed it as gaslighting hallucination, Richard's abuse manifesting my revenge fantasies. Jury ate it, Midwestern moms nodding at family trauma, suits squirming at the money laundering pie charts. Objection. Hearsay, her counsel barked as I detailed the drive's contents. Vanessa's signatures on ghost LLCs funneling narco cash into Daddy's developments. Judge sustained half, overruled the rest. Controversy simmered. Outside, Vanessa takedown trended, housewives boycotting her philanthropy galas. Richard testified via video from the ward, voice a medicated slur. She, in my head, made me see. His eyes, my old haunt, locked on the screen, pleading forgiveness or accusation. I looked away, gut twisting. Monster or mirror? Verdict dropped like a gavel guillotine. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder add-on from the warehouse. 10 years, minimum security in Terre Haute, her Louboutins traded for orange jumpsuits. Cheers erupted in the gallery. I slipped out a side door. Jax's voiceover already cutting the episode. From Fall Girl to Avenger, Poppy Harlan's American Gothic. But victory tasted like ash. Daddy's estate settled. Me inheriting the scraps. Southside lofts he'd flipped pre-scandal. Enough for a fresh start. No empire, just echoes. Aunt Lila flew in for the after-party. None. Just us at the Rusty Nail, Mick comping the Jameson. Proud of you, kid, she said, clinking glasses, her eyes misty under the neon. Broke the cycle. Cycle? Harlan men building, women burning. Mom's ghost nodded from the jukebox, Springsteen crooning, Thunder Road, like absolution. But the decision loomed, controversial as they come. Burn the lofts for a clean break or rebuild. Mini empire for the overlooked, affordable housing in the wards that birthed Daddy's fortune. Doc called from the shadows. Burner to burner. Echoes gone, but data remains. Want the files? For science. Or spite. I torched them digitally, watching the shredder were in a FedEx drop. Science?
Nah.
Spite's too heavy a chain. Instead, I drove to Rose Hill at dusk, gravel crunching under tires, fog rolling off the lake like unanswered prayers. Daddy's stone gleamed, fresh flowers wilting. Vanessa's doing? Or guilt's ghost? I traced the etching. In the end, only kindness matters. Bullshit epitaph, penned by lawyers. You chose silence, Dad, I whispered, wind stealing the words. But I choose noise. Back west, the parlor thrived. My designs now. Vengeful poppies entwined with serpents, clients sharing their scars over needles. Lila and I expanded the shop, tarot nights drawing seekers who'd lost their way. Controversy lingered in op-eds. Harlan heiress, hero or homewrecker? Debates raged on Reddit, r/true crime threads dissecting the swap as metaphor or madness. Jax's pod won a Webby. He sent residuals, enough for a down payment on cliffside dirt. Twists afterglow. Richard surfaced 6 months post-verdict, discharged, gaunt as a specter, living in a Jersey walk-up on disability. Letter arrived, handwriting shaky. Poppy, I saw you in me. Forgave the push. Understood the rage. But the real thief?
Time.
We stole it from each other. Enclosed, a check, his severance, rerouted to me. I cashed it, donated half to Mom's old cancer ward, kept the rest for ink and horizon. Endings debatable, as promised, happy in the haze of salt air, by kitsch in the what-ifs. Did I rewrite futures, or just shuffle the deck? Vanessa rots, appealing from stripes. Richard fades, a footnote.
Daddy?
Wind over marble.
Me?
Poppy Harlan, scarred but standing, gunning the Subaru down Highway 1, radio blasting replacements. Bastards of young. No more silence. Just the roar. The boardroom ghosts? They whisper still, on stormy nights when the fog thickens. But I answer back, fierce as a gale. Not anymore. And drive on.